Hi, I'm Bonnie Meekins. I'm going to read a small section for you from my debut novel, A Kind of Family. It's published by Between the Lines and it was published early in 2020. As the plane came into land, Fran sat bolt upright in her seat. This was a terrain she could never have dreamed of. The mountain range crinkled below her like giant purple brains. After a while she could make out a patch of green and a lonely winding road leading to an isolated homestead. Why would anyone choose to live this remotely? Fran wondered, her eyes fixed on the changing terrain below. Momentarily, she wished she didn't have a bump in the way, so that she could shift even further forwards. Such was the pull of this landscape. More roads appeared, some leading straight down the mountains, while others snaked up in a series of hairpin bends. She could now make out what she thought might be some walking paths among the rough tracks. And now, water. Tributaries joining hands to dance forwards into fast-flowing rivers, which came in turn to the stillness of massive lakes. The river below her was a kind of turquoise blue, the like of which she had never before seen in any country of the world. This land seemed magical. She could see why Peter Jackson had chosen this country in which to film his Lord of the Rings movies. It was like entering a different world, not just a new land, but a complete new set of shapes and colours. The plane began descending between the mountains, so that now they loomed up to the side of her, and it felt as if she could reach out and touch the grass. She checked her seatbelt and settled back into her seat, ready for landing. The wheels touched down with expert ease, and pretty soon the plane came to a standstill, after which the engines graciously expired. As she queued to disembark, she saw helicopters flying between the mountains, taking pleasure seekers to see the sights. She had never seen so many helicopters in the sky at one time. Small private planes, owned, she supposed, by people from North Island or overseas, sat on the tarmac waiting for their rich owners to decide to fly them. Fran wondered if the owners had pilot licenses or whether they employed someone always on standby to fly them whither they wished. She could not begin to imagine what such wealth felt like, but then neither did she wish to know. Wealth was as alien to her as the sights she was feasting on. Collecting her bag from the carousel was amazingly quick, though the checks took rather longer. She had to complete a form containing a lot of questions, including whether or not she'd been walking in the countryside recently and did she carry any seeds. Yes and no. The customs official inspected her walking boots and gave them the all clear. Then she placed her bags in the X-ray machine. Finally, Fran was out in the open air and was immediately struck by an elegant and proud sculpture of 3 Maori chiefs. Reading the legend, she learned the work was called Haere Mai Ete Manuhiri Torangi, which meant welcome, O visitor from afar. Always interested in public arts, she noted the artist's name, Mark Hill. She would happily have stood there looking at the sculpture in a state of reverie brought on by a combination of pregnancy and jet lag, but her pre-ordered taxi arrived. The very relaxed, smiling driver got out to greet her, guessing by the look of her that this was the pregnant Englishwoman he expected. He swiftly lifted her one small case into the boot and opened the back door of his cab. As the driver pulled away from the airport, Fran was in awe to see Lake Wakatipu so near. They drove beside the lake all the way into Queenstown, and then met it again on their way out of town and up the hill towards Fernhill, the district where she was to find her hotel. When she arrived at the hotel, the first thing she did was to walk right through the bar to the back and marvel at the vastness of the view over the lake towards the remarkable mountains. She was struck by an unexpected sense of coming home. To her own surprise, she began to cry.